Hey everyone, what's up? This is Uri for Guerrilla Poker, and in this video I'm going to be analyzing a high stakes hand, heads up, played between Stefan and Limitless, and I'm going to do a bit of PioSolvering just to take a quick look at what's going on. Victor and Stefan have been playing heads up for a while. There's a lot of trash talking going on. I don't know how much of it is being honest or looking for action, but Stefan is absolutely destroying Limitless so far. This is a very high stakes, high profile match, and Limitless keeps trash talking, telling him, you know, I'm gonna end your career, I'm gonna finish you by the time we're done, you'll have no more money, let's play higher, let's play more hands. And Stefan, you know, it's just like, well, what the hell? Like, how can I possibly lose to you? You're so bad. I'm giving you guys a toned down version. These guys are trash talking really hard. Okay, so this is a hand, 100 deep heads up, Limitless raises to 230, Stefan 3-bets to 930, bit of a small 3-bet, but okay. Limitless 4-bets to 2284, Stefan calls, so we have a 4-bet pot. 4-7 Queen Rainbow, and here's where it gets interesting, because Stefan decides to donk bet the Queen 7-4 Rainbow board. Now, before I jump into the solver analysis, I always like to talk a bit about what I personally think about the spot. And I think donk betting a queen high board is something that might happen. Because the way 4-bet ranges work, you know, you're going to 3-bet all your ace queen and all your king queen, and they're all going to flat the 4-bet. But the 4-better is not going to have every ace queen and king queen in his range. So specifically queen high board might be one that you hit a bit extra hard, ace king misses, kind of a spot where as the caller you might actually be the one with initiative. So Stefan donk bets for a small bet, Limitless calls, we get the turn ace of spades, Stefan goes for another quarter pot bet, which is, you know, once the ace is also out there, I would be less sure that you actually get to keep firing. I would guess this is more of a, you know, either check your range card or bet very infrequently, intuitively, because now ace king improved. Sure, you still have ace queen, so like you could bet some draws and some strong hands, but I'm not sure if it's a big thing or not. Intuitively, I think the ace favors the 4-better a bit too much and maybe you want to check your entire range. River 9 of spades, flush comes in, Stefan checks, Limitless goes all in, and Stefan calls. And we're going to see results in a while, but let's dive into the solver analysis. Here you see the 4-bet range for Limitless, which is queens plus ace king, bit of ace queen suited, but not many hands with a queen. And then bluffs are a bit all over the place, but aces is a bit of a good card for him. What do you do against the 4-bet? Which hands do you call? I'm going to copy those here. And we see the calling range for Stefan, which we see does include king-queen at almost full frequency. Ace-queen off, not so much. Ace-queen off with the parameters in my sim actually plays shove a lot, but my sim has a slightly larger 3-bet size, which means slightly larger 4-bet size as well. So these are nuances. 4-bet in my sim would have been 2,500, and the hand itself, it was like 2,300. So hopefully not a huge deal, but yeah, this is going to be the flatting range. Now, I am, of course, making things a little bit similar to what actually happened in the hand. This isn't going to be about finding the optimal bet size, right? That's not really what we're looking for here. It's more about, like, does what happened in the hand make sense from a structural perspective? Like, is donk betting a thing? If so, which hands do it? And is Stefan a GTO machine, or is he, you know, getting in there, getting into the streets and doing his thing? A lot of my poker philosophy doesn't have to be correct to donk bet here. It just has to be tough for the other person to respond correctly, and you have to have some idea of what kind of mistake they're going to be making. Like I said, nothing's 100% accurate. Ranges are a bit different, but yeah. So once we run the sim with these parameters, I'm waiting for the exploitable level to be roughly 0.5%, I think, is a decent spot to start analyzing the flop action. Looking at the sim, first things first, donk bet is not a thing, right? And this ties into the donk betting video I made back in the day. One of the things I mentioned is, even though donk betting is not a thing in a lot of spots, it's not really a large mistake with a lot of hands. It's more a mistake in terms of your range. You know, it's not bad necessarily for your hand to donk bet. If you take a look at like what's the EV difference between betting and checking, hands do prefer to check. But in terms of the pot size, right, pot size is 4,600. The preferences are not very dramatic. Like making a $75 mistake by donk betting something like 4 or 5 of clubs and a $4,600 pot. It's not a big mistake. The main issue is it's tough to construct a donk betting range in a balanced way because you're at a disadvantage starting out on the sport. And to put in bets, you need strong hands. Now we're taking some strong hands, we're taking some bluffs, we're making our range even weaker. And generally, what this means is that people who donk bet here are going to have a range that's too weak when it's checking. But of course, like I said, Stefan, obviously not a GTO bot. He is getting in the streets. This is not a donk betting spot at all. We can say at every hand donk betting almost is like a one big BB mistake in solver. But yeah, donk bet he did, and we need to look at Limitless's response. You know, you want to react in two ways to crush someone who's donk betting. One is that when he donk bets, you raise a lot and you react aggressively. You attack the donk betting range. And the other one is that were he to check, you attack even more. So by doing this, Stefan can't donk bet with a bluff because Limitless would be calling a ton. There's almost no folding and raising a ton. So what's the point in donk betting with a bluff? You're just losing money. And he can't donk bet for value. Well, he can donk bet for value to get played back at a lot, but he'd be better off checking and facing like a 88% bet and getting in a check raise. So actually, all his hands prefer to check if you react in this doubly aggressive way. When would he maybe want to donk bet? If you're not actually doing that. If you're not betting enough, maybe he wants to donk bet his value hands. And if you're not reacting aggressively enough to the donk bet, maybe donk betting bluffs starts becoming good. But be that as it may, donk bet happened, call happened, and we'll see a turn. Ace of spades feels like one of the worst turn cards for you. If you look at the calling range for in position on the flop, there are a lot of ace kings in there. And these hands are all improving to beat all your pairs. I can't imagine you're donk betting too many ace highs yourself. Just overall not a good situation, and I would guess you need to do a lot of checking, but we'll see what Mr. PioSOLVER says. And yeah, we see that on a turn there is no betting. You need to check your range. And this is not going to be true on every turn. You guys can see that the ace is actually the only card which you can't keep betting on. It's like the absolute worst card for you. Well, if the board is low and you bet and just got called and didn't raise, now ace king doesn't improve, you actually get to keep firing quite a lot. Stefan definitely not playing like a solver. He does bet again and Limitless calls again. Again, in terms of what's going on here, we have a situation that's a bit similar to the flop. This turn is bad enough for you that in position has a big equity advantage, and that means if you bet, you will get raised a lot and you will get almost no folds, so bluffing doesn't work. While if you check, you're going to face a lot of money going in from Limitless's side, so your value hands are also a bit better off checking, supposedly. And we can see the difference here, where even though it's not super dramatic, every single hand in the range does prefer checking in terms of EV. Whether you have, ace queen or king jack, all the hands are going to do a bit better checking. And yeah, like I said, the key here, and this is a big thing in a heads-up match, is how adaptive you are to your opponent. Because if, for example, and this is maybe likely, if you bet quarter pot, ace king's supposed to always shove. Most top pairs are supposed to shove. Some middle pairs are supposed to shove. And if this isn't happening, then barreling a draw, for example, would actually be preferable to checking if you're just realizing your equity cheap. So be that as it may, we have donk bet call, river 9 of spades. Stefan checks, Limitless goes all in, and Stefan calls, and the cards get turned face up. Limitless has queen 9 offsuit for the 4-bet bluff, flops top pair, turns, now it's middle pair, river is 2 pair, and he's just going for value, and Stefan has this super weirdly played 10-8 of spades, which is not even in my range, But like I said, sizings here are a bit different, so it's definitely fine to be in there. Flop and turn makes sense. Then actually hit the flush and check the river, that must be super tilting for Limitless. But yeah, let's take a look at the sim. Rather than look at 10-9 of spades, we'll look at a very equivalent hand, which would be something like Jack-10 of spades. A similar type of hand, Jack-10 of spades, 6-5 of spades, all these hands are kind of similar. So reaching the river 9 of spades, certainly Stefan can bet this is not like a bad equity shifting card. And if we look at flushes in his range, they should mostly shove, but there are a few that do slow play. The ones that slow play mostly have a king or a queen. Jack-10 slow plays, we don't have the lower ones to see really whether or not they would slow play, but slow playing definitely a thing. And it's more of a thing the more high cards you have, because when you have multiple high cards, presumably some kind of blocker effect going on, but it's not interesting to dig too deep into that, because this is a node in a game tree that shouldn't really happen. So yeah, Stefan decides to check with a flush. You definitely want to check some flushes. If we even wanted to look at like the deuce of spades, you can see that something like 10-9 of spades or 8-9 of spades, these are hands that would be betting. 8 of spades, you'd have almost everything betting. 9 of spades, as a card gets higher, it hits Stefan's range more, and then you start checking a bit more. Really nuanced stuff, and like I said, not very important. The main thing to keep in mind is, you know, you went small, your range is not really super polarized, so you might want to be showing down some hands. And once you want to be showing down some hands, it does make sense to check a few traps, right? Maybe you want to show down your, maybe pair of sevens, maybe pair of queens would want to show down. Not really bet, like you flopped a queen, bet small flop, bet small turn, you want to show down against jacks, so throw in some traps, something like that. So check makes sense. Limitless gets you with queen 9. Believe it or not, in PioSOLVER, queen 9 no spade is actually not always betting, but Limitless has queen 9 with the queen of spades, which should of course always bet. Kind of crazy hand to see. I think, you know, without the solver, just looking at this hand, you would think, well, heads up is so crazy, solvers are so crazy, you know, these guys are so good, how do they know all this stuff? Starting to look through the solver, you actually see, well, you know, these two guys, maybe two top tier heads up regulars, but you know, Stefan's kind of weighing it here. I don't know if he's misunderstanding the spot or playing an exploitative game. You know, heads up is not the main game for either of these guys, so it makes sense for them to make, you know, technical mistakes. So either he's playing some sick, you know, leveling game with Limitless, or he's just misunderstanding the situation, and hopefully Stefan watch this video, he'll know how to play it better next time. Generally, my approach to solvers is not at all what we were doing here. You know, we didn't look at how the spot plays at all. We just were looking at a cool hand, and we looked at how the spot shouldn't play, right? We looked at the fact that you shouldn't donk bet, but, you know, maybe you do, and how do you react if the other guy donk bets? So like I said, this is something that I've already made 2 videos about, but how to react if the other guy donk bets is not an intuitive thing. Again, if someone donk bets, you float and you call a lot, you raise a lot, just very aggro. And when he checks, you're even more aggro. By doing this, you crush his bluffs, they can't profit by donk betting, and you disincentivize his value, because sure, his value is getting value, you know, there's no way around that. But it would have gotten even more money had he checked, right? Because you bet even more frequently than you attack his donk bet, and by doing these 2 things, you make donk betting just unattractive for the other guy in any spot in which his range is at a disadvantage. If you guys asked me, Stefan, either he has different range construction, right, than my sim, and his range is at an advantage here, or more likely it's at a bit of a disadvantage, and you know, he just misunderstood a bit. It really could be either way, for what it's worth. Like, being completely honest, the 3-bet size is different, the 4-bet size is different, these things change a lot, so I could see Stefan's range being stronger. You know, maybe he flats all his ace-queens in my sim. Ace-queen off was shoving over the 4-bet quite a lot. What if Stefan has every ace-queen and every king-queen in his range? What happens now? Alright, so just for full disclosure, I did change the range and ran to a similar accuracy where I just put a ton of strong queens in Stefan's range to see maybe things could look really, really different. And when we look, it's like, you know, there becomes a tiny amount of donk betting, like 13%. hand like Stefan had, like a 10-9 of spades or an 8-9 of spades, would not really go into a donk betting node either way. In terms of frequency, almost zero. You would want something a bit stronger, such as having a king in your hand or having some kind of draw. I think it's safe to say that Stefan misunderstood this spot, but yeah, who knows? Definitely a better heads-up player than me. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our website. There's a cool new course out there about how to improve your red line, and we also offer GTO pre-flop ranges. And we have a couple of other courses which will be coming out fairly soon. So definitely recommend for you guys to check that out. And I'll see you next time.